Hi, I'm Jessica.
And I'm Kira.
And we are the Keepers of the Books, your online librarians, and we are here with a weekly reads episode. As you can see, my voice is pretty much back, so hopefully we will be just fine this week. The exercises are actually helping. So we will start with the youngest books. Today we have everything from middle readers through adults, and we have a coloring book. So let's start with the coloring book and then let's do the middle readers.
Disney's Mickey and Minnie Art of Coloring series. I absolutely love Mickey and Minnie, and this coloring book is no exception. So this covers all your favorite Mickey and Minnie characters throughout the 90 years of history that are included in this book. You have Donald, Daisy, Mickey, Minnie, and more. For fans of Mickey and Minnie, you're going to want to pick this one up. I would recommend this for all ages, and this is a review copy from Disney Editions.
Fairy Mom and Me is by Sophie Kinsella, which is one of probably the mom's favorite authors. Sophie Kinsella wrote the Shopaholic series. So that is a series that a lot of people are familiar with, especially that like just fun, lighthearted adult novels. But Fairy Mom and Me is for a much younger group. This is narrated by Cassandra Morris, and I would say that this book is for about grades 2 through 4. It's an early chapter book. It's going to be about your Magic Treehouse level of the harder Magic Treehouse books, ages 7 to 10. This is the first book in the Fairy Spell series, and the illustrations, not in the audiobook but in the physical book, are by Marta Kesey. This was a review copy from Delacorte Press, and it was so cute. And Sophie Kinsella tends to be very funny. This is about Ella Brooke. And in this book, you have a mixture of magic and technology. And her mom is just not so good at using her wand. She's not the best fairy in the world, and she tends to mess up all the time. Her classes are on FairyTube. So between her mom and FairyTube, she's going to have to figure this out somehow. The problem is her mom can't remember the codes to their computer wand. And it's just very difficult, and well, Ella's mom tends to cause more catastrophes than she solves problems with her magic spells. And Ella is always helping her mom more than she's learning from her mom. But, you know, if you really think about it, she's learning from her mom, just not the way she planned, right? So Ella's best not friend, or frenemy, is Zoe. And Zoe is very competitive, and she is not nice. However, they keep getting stuck together. Ella's not too happy about that. I actually did look at the physical book, and the sketches are very cute. They're adorable, and they will help you to connect with the characters. Again, with this age group, the audiobook and the physical book together are going to be a fantastic combination to increase those reading skills. This narrator is perfect for young listeners, and I don't know how she pulled it off, but she sounds like a very young girl. And the mom sounds middle-aged. And it's the same narrator. She does a great job distinguishing the voices. There's a really good discussion and activity guide at the end. So I think that is very fun, and it would be useful for like clubs reading together, discussing your reading, because that discussion portion, stopping and discussing, is going to build a lot of metacognitive skills and is very helpful for reading and learning to read. Okay, read-alikes. I'm going to say Sarah Mlynowski's Whatever After series. I love Sarah Mlynowski too.
Me too.
And so you've got another comedic author, and these pair really well together.
Mr. Lemoncello's Great Library Race by Chris Grabenstein. This follows Kyle and Akimi. This is book number 3 in the series, but you don't have to have read the first 2 to get the story. So Mr. Lemoncello has created this really awesome library that's full of all sorts of cool things to get kids interested in reading, including some holograms. And he's created a race around the history of the people who are in the holograms, like Michael Jordan, Mr. Lemoncello himself, and a couple others. And there are clues the kids have to solve surrounding these holograms all over the world in order to win the big Great Library Race. However, while researching Mr. Lemoncello, Kyle and Akimi discover that Mr. Lemoncello may have stolen somebody else's game originally. Now in the background you have Lemoncello's rivals, the Crinkle Brothers, trying to underhandedly bring down Mr. Lemoncello and take over his library because they're just jerks. Now, who is right, Mr. Lemoncello, or did Mr. Lemoncello steal this game? Great adventure full of book clues and adventure for those who prefer the more realistic adventure. A good read and like for this would be Book Scavenger series. I would recommend this for grades 4 through 8 or ages 9 to 14. Samantha Spinner and the Super Secret Plans. This is a review copy from Listening Library and Delacorte Press. So this is by Russell Gins, and this is narrated by Kathy McKinnery and Grover Gardner. This is a really good series, I think, for fans of 39 Clues and books like that. This one, I loved the opening
tune that was presented in this. It was really catchy and it stuck in my head for actually like a week, and I loved it. So Samantha's uncle has disappeared and her sister gets a check for $2.4 billion, and her brother was given the New York Yankees, and she got a rusty old umbrella. Okay, a little strange, totally not fair. And the umbrella just has a tag that says watch for rain. Gee, thanks Uncle Paul. That is a great gift. To make things even worse, even the dog got this cool new collar that's totally blinged out. This is a globe-trotting adventure, and there's secret spy stuff and clues and all kinds of fun adventures. I absolutely love this one, and I highly recommend it for grades. Well, if you have the audio, you could go as low as 2nd grade, but this book is written for grades about 4 through 8. Of course, the same group of kids that like 39 Clues, that same age group. And there's nothing in it, so if you have a 2nd grader who's a fantastic reader and needs to read up, this is a great book for that. And that's going to be about ages 8 or 9 through about actually 12 or 13, just because some kids in that age group still love these kind of books so much, even though they're recommended for ages 8 through 12. You could go a tiny bit higher or even a tiny bit lower, just depending on level. All right, great one. Thank you for this review copy. The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin and narrated by Cassandra Campbell. This is another review copy from Penguin Random House. The book won the 1979 Newbery Award and is a fan and required reading for a lot of classes. Grades 5 through 8 on this one because the plot is quite in-depth. It was one of the first in its age group, I believe, to change the plot, and that's why I think it won the Newbery. But they don't necessarily give their reasonings for why, but there are certain things they look for. Cassandra Campbell is an award-winning narrator. She narrated The Help, which I'm sure a lot of people listen to, and she has won a ton of awards. She's narrated over 100 audiobooks, and you can tell that she has experience when you listen to this book. She is the best narrator for this book. She obviously loves what she does, and Audiophile gave her the best voice in 2009 and 2010. For those of you who don't know the Westing Game, you have Sunset Towers, this new apartment building, and it's owned by the Weston Estate. All the residents are selected to move in during September. So they didn't really just choose, they were told, hey, look, we got a new place for you to live. Come live here. During Halloween, you have Turtle, and Turtle Wexler sees smoke coming out of the Weston Estate. And she is dared to go into the Westing house, and she finds a dead body, Mr. Weston. There are 16 heirs named in his will. Most of them are Sunset Tower residents. So one of the heirs killed Mr. Westing. That's all they know. They are given teams of 2, and they can't be with like their sibling. They have to be like with other people. Like it can't be a parent or a sibling. It has to be somebody else. And so there are 8 teams. They're each given $10,000 and clues. The winner gets the entire estate. Like there are bombs and murders and nobody trusts anybody, and there's tons of mayhem and lots of fun and solving.
Lots of twists and turns in the plot.
Lots of twists and turns, yes. It is a classic for a reason, but this book does take some attention. I think that's why it's a good one to read with an adult or in class. The audiobook does make it more accessible, and some kids will do a little better just reading and listening at the same time. Well, most kids will. It is a good one to read with a clue notebook, a reading technique. Kira, tell them about, keeping a reading journal with the clues.
So to keep a journal with clues, you want to think about the who, where, what, when, why, and how that you learn along the way. I like to keep a page or 2 on each character so that it's easy to figure out what clues go with which characters.
And in this one, you might want to track the teams as well.
Think of it as like the board game Clue, only in a notebook and more detailed.
Why does this help increase reading skills?
It helps increase reading skills because it allows you to retain the information, and then you can recall it and have better reading comprehension because you're not focusing on trying to remember all the clues. You're writing them down instead.
And this isn't necessarily the easiest plot for a mystery book for this age. It's very complicated, and that's what makes it so fun and why kids read it over and over. But the audio on this one is fantastic, and I could not stop listening.
Piece by Mike Van Wees. This is a really funny, silly book. Steven aka Slim Pickings, he's a worrier. We'll just say that. He has very much generalized anxiety in the worst way, and his parents have been trying to get him help and medication that's just not working. Now, Steven's dad is working in a lab that is in the process of trying to create an experimental thing that is supposed to help with anxiety called personal vexation zones. And Stephen gets splashed with this mixture, and suddenly all these weird little creatures, he's the only one who can see them. And they're his personal pet peeves, his worries. So every time he sneezes, he makes someone else catch the peeves. So suddenly everybody everywhere can see these little creatures, and they're driving everybody crazy. Can they figure out how to get rid of the peeves? This is a super silly, funny book, full of comedy. Mike actually has worked for Paramount Pictures, Paramount Vantage, and DreamWorks. So it almost, when you read this book, it'll feel more like a movie, almost, the way it's described. And you'll really feel pulled into the book and engaged. I would recommend this for grades 3 through 7. This is a review copy from HarperCollins.
All right, The Best Man by Richard Peck. This is a review copy from Dial Books. And this is realistic fiction. Richard Peck is a Newbery medalist, so you have seen books from him before, most likely. This is for grades 4 through 6, 9 through 12. This is about Archie McGillen. It's his story of life in elementary school in a small town, and it pretty much covers all of elementary school. He reflects on the men in his life, who they are, what are their best qualities, and which ones does he want to incorporate into who he is? Who does he want to be when he grows up? And he also reflects on these men and what he can learn from them. He talks about the influence of teachers and friends and family as well. So in 6th grade, his uncle marries a man, and that's why he's the best man. So there is this undercurrent in the story about gay marriage, and so this piece does create a book that is honestly more realistic for a lot of people. This is a part of their life, and it talks about, these are good men, they're in his life, and he loves them, and they're great qualities. But I think it's a good book for a 6th grader because it's good for them to reflect on who they want to be and what they need to start developing now as pieces of their life, how they can serve people and be the best person they can be.
I really like Richard Peck's books. He writes all sorts of genres, including some historical fiction, and I think they all do a good job of getting kids to reflect on who they want to be.
So that's a great one.
Penderwicks at Last by Jean Birdsall, narrated by Susan Deneker. This is the final book in the Penderwick series, and it did not disappoint. So you have Batty, Jane, Rosalind, Skye, and now you have Lydia and Ben who are added to the mix, along with their parents. And Rosalind is getting married, so they all head back to Arendelle to get married where they first met Jeffrey, an old friend. And of course, Mrs. Tipton makes another appearance in the book and drives everybody batty. And you have their friendships developing as well as the new experiences Lydia has of discovering Arendelle for herself. And of course, you have all the same mishaps that everybody loved in the first few books. I loved the narrator. She does a great job of bringing all the voices to life on all ages, and they're easy to distinguish. You really get pulled into the story. Fans of the Penderwick series will want to pick this one up. You will have to have read the first few in the series to be able to understand this one. It also has lots of dancing and singing and being silly, but also the experience of growing up and what it means to be who you are, not who people want you to be. This is a review copy from Penguin Random House. I would recommend this for grades 3 through 7 or ages 8 to 13.
It's a Mall World After All. This is by Jeanette Rallison. And this is a review copy from the author. Realistic fiction, published by Walker & Company. I'm going to say this is for ages 12 through 18 or grades 6 and up. So you have Charlotte. She is a perfume spritzer at the mall. And she likes to watch people at the mall and her classmates at the mall. People watching at the mall can be quite entertaining. And her best friend is Brianna. Brianna has a boyfriend. His name is Bryant. She sees him at the mall flirting with others, or specifically one other girl. Their school has a lot of rich, preppy kids in it. So Charlotte has a really good heart. She's National Honor Society. She likes to plan lots of service projects. And one day she sees a little boy stealing shoes for his mom. No mom around, but he was going to make it a present. And so she decides to buy the shoes for him, but in return, he has to go around the mall and pick up trash. This plan totally backfires in so many ways, it isn't even funny throughout this book. But her intentions were good. Can she convince Brianna that her boyfriend is a cheater? Or is this going to blow up in her face too? Realistic fiction, it was cute, it had a humorous aspect to it, and I thought this was just a really clean, adorable, realistic teen fiction read because some of them get so whiny, and this one didn't seem to do that. So this was a very good one for junior high and some early high school readers. I love this one.
Ash Princess by Sebastian. This book is fabulous. It's probably one of my favorites so far this year. Theodosia is the main character. And when she was young, her mother was killed by the Thane. And she basically became a prisoner of the Kaiser. Her mom was killed by the Thane, and her country was conquered by the Kaiser.
He's a cruel and evil, vicious man.
He's a very cruel and vicious man, and to survive, she basically goes into the background and does what she can to basically avoid getting whipped by the guy. Or worse. A little bit into the book, an old friend of hers.
Basically, she's this piece that he uses to control the people.
Yes, that's a good way
She's
to describe it.
She's a prisoner, a pawn.
An old friend of hers shows up and decides that it's time for her to step up her game. So this is a very complex plot that involves a lot of deaths. Will she manage to do it? Can she succeed? Or has she been in hiding way too long? This is a very excellent fantasy adventure with lots of dark elements in the book, but it's a fantastic read. Wouldn't you agree?
I loved this book. It was really good. So if you liked this book, you will like, or if you liked those, you would like this. I would maybe say Crown's Game.
Throne of Glass, maybe?
Six of Crows. This is totally different than Six of Crows, but it's that same type of dark fantasy.
The audio was done by Saskia Marleveld. She's narrated a lot of stuff. I love her narrations. She does a very great job of bringing the story to life with the different voices for the characters. Her intonations are fantastic and he really keeps pace with how the novel moves along. I would recommend this definitely for grades 9 and up or ages 15 and up. I would recommend this 5 stars for sure.
I can't wait till the next book, but the first one just came out.
The book and the audio are review copies from Delacorte Press.
S.T.A.G.S by M.A. Bennett, narrated by Catherine McEwen. This is dark. So dark.
Apparently we're ending on dark books today.
This is a thriller. I'm going to say grades 7 through 12 or ages 12 and up. No sexual content, minimal language, but there's a lot of violence. This was a review copy from Penguin Random House. The narrator has this entrancing British accent and it really fits the tone and the theme of this book so well. It is autumn term at a boarding school, St. Aidan the Great, or the Stags. You have Grim MacDonald, who gets this mysterious invitation to go hunting, shooting, and fishing. Midterm weekend at the Manor Long Cross of Henry de Warlencourt. Henry's just very popular, cute, wealthy. He's every girl's dream in this book. You have this old British aristocracy, very old money, and then you have this medievals group. And it's this group of kids that have this aversion to tech. Their goal, basically the medievals' goal, is to teach commoners their place. And you have Greer. Basically they're a cult. And the question is, how far will they go to teach the commoners their place when they all go hunting, shooting, and fishing? And what are they hunting, shooting, and fishing for? Like I said, dark, twisted, but completely engrossing read, or listen in this case. I actually really couldn't put it down because I wanted to know what was happening, but at the same time I was slightly disgusted and disturbed.
That's an understatement.
But that's kind of the point of the plot, so good job. If you like dark, twisted books, this is probably the one for you.
The stories of Edgar Allan Poe. So you're going to find in this book The Telltale Heart, The Raven, Cask of Amontillado, as well as The Fall of the House of Umber. It's told in manga format because this reads backwards. I love the illustrations on this. So you have great shading to really emphasize those darker parts of the novel. Of course, what parts aren't dark when it comes to Edgar Allan Poe. And this is going to be a great Halloween read later down the road, but it's great for anyone who likes horror. And it really brings to life the two elements that make Edgar Allan Poe's classics so much fun to read. I would recommend this for grades 8 and up or ages 13 and up. This is a review copy from Manga Classics.
The Grave's a Fine and Private Place by Alan Bradley. This is a Flavia De Luce novel, and this is book 9. I love the Flavia De Luce novels. I have not read all of them, and granted, I've only caught like the first couple in this one, and I was fine. It tells you enough what you need to know without giving the previous novels away, so you could read them in a different order if you desired. But I do recommend reading The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie first, which is book 1, so that you get to know Flavia.
And it's a very good book.
This is considered a cozy mystery, and it is considered an adult book. However, Flavia is 12. Now, the plot is complicated, which makes this a great one for the family, because it's an adult book, but yet there's content-wise, it's fine for probably ages 12 and up, because she's 12. And if you need an audiobook for a road trip, take one of the Flavia De Luce novels with you, or all of them. Book 9 is a fantastic one. The narrator is Jane Entwistle, and she does a great British 12-year-old girl.
Oh, I love Jane Entwistle. She's a great narrator.
She is, and she's done great for this one. Now, for really good readers, this will be just fine to follow, so that's awesome. You have a very compound, complex plot and characters. Again, for your older readers who need something harder, this is a good. 1952, England. Flavia is 12. She is not what a 12-year-old girl in England in 1952 is supposed to be. She's a chemist and a sleuth, and she loves to solve crimes that the cops can't solve and let them know why they're idiots. Her father's dead, and the family servant, so Dogger suggests that they take a boating trip with Flavia and the two older sisters. And their punt drifts past this church, where this notorious vicar killed 3 parishioners by spiking the communion wine. And of course the cops can't figure it out. Flavia's floating around in their punt, and she's got her hand in the water, and what do you know? It's a human head. She's ecstatic.
Definitely not your typical 12-year-old.
So they decide to stay for a while. Flavia quickly makes friends, as she always does, with lots of people, including the son of the mortician. And she thinks the son of a mortician has just this amazing life. She's totally jealous of Hob, and that he gets to see dead bodies every day. I love that they actually throw chemistry in, and it's a total geeky novel, and you have this deep mystery with lots of suspects, mysterious clues, and the small town where everyone has something and nothing at the same time to hide. And that is a review copy from Penguin Random House. Alright, so those are all of our reads for this week. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. When you subscribe down below, make sure you hit that little bell next to it so that you actually do get notifications when all these come out. Otherwise, you just get one here and there. So hit the bell notifications and subscribe. And when you comment, tell us what audiobook are you looking forward to listening to on your next road trip. And until next time, happy reading. Bye.